Today we're going to edit drone footage. So DJI Mavic 2, it's going to be in the H.265 file. I'm also going to show you how to, because when you do record in the Mavic 2 Pro, it has a distortion. I'll show you how to undistort your clip. When I'm done with the clip, I will leave a LUT for you that we create together in the description so you can download it, use it for your footage. What I think is very important is using ND filters. So I will link those down in the description below, and let's get to it. Okay, all right. I keep all my drone stuff, and this, which I think is totally worth buying. So it's all caged up. It looks awesome. All right, let's put that there. What I want to show you guys is what? This. These Polar Pro ND filters are excellent because they come in for the zoom as well as for the Mavic 2. They have ND 8, 16, and 32. I would say on a really sunny day, I would put it to 16 or 32. 32 if it's the peak of the sun and you're recording something white like concrete or cement, however, the reason why I put it there is because I want to have shallow depth of field if I'm recording a subject. But when you're shooting landscape, I think you'll be okay with shooting at f4, f3. But the lower you go, the more blown out your image gets. The way I edit my drone footage is very important that I have an ND filter on it. And when I'm flying it, I keep a really close eye on the waveform. So the waveform normally is, one end to the other. These are the highlights, these are the shadows. I like to keep it in the middle, but slightly to the right because, because that's the best. Keep your ISO the lowest possible with any camera. ISO is digital brightening, it's not actual light. Keep your ISO at the native as well as the lowest, and you will get the best image quality. The f-stop is what I use to control light because I can't touch the shutter speed. I always shoot at 180-degree shutter rule. That means that if your shutter speed is at 24 or 23.978, it has to be around 50, so 1/50th of a second. And if you change that, you are changing the blurriness and the motion of it. However, I have, in certain situations, especially at nighttime, increased. So I shot at 24 frames per second, but put it at 1/20th or 1/30th to make it brighter, to let more light in. And honestly, no one even noticed the difference. It increased my brightness. I didn't have to touch ISO that much. The highest I'll put my ISO is 800, but you'll get considerable amount of noise. So then I crush the blacks and the shadows in my night shots to make that noise go away. Anyways, hopefully you retained some of that information. We're just gonna go straight into color grading now. Let's get started. I'm gonna put up the screen recording. Drone shot, I'm going to leave in the description below. You can use, it's flat. It's shot at H.265. I want you to practice color grading, and you could keep it, use it for whatever you want. I think it's an awesome drone footage. So let's get started. We're going to start up Premiere Pro. All right, we're back. I had to skip all that. Now we're here. I'm on the coloring tab on the top, so it's learning, assembling, editing, and coloring. Go to the coloring tab, click on Luma scopes. If you can't see it, let me try to close it. Close panel. So now it's gone, right? So, view, window. Where's Lumetri scopes? There you go. And boom, pops up. If you're having a hard time, small tabs, you can change it with the setting tab here. You could do vector, which I don't use unless I'm doing skin tones. you can click at the bottom, vector YUV. This is the ones I use for skin tones. So let's not worry about that right now. Histogram, get rid of that. You could use the Rgb Parade, which you could tell with the Rgb Parade. Let's use it. Let's use the Rgb Parade, and we're gonna color balance this thing. So right now it has way more blues than reds. So we're just gonna tilt it to the right until it's balanced. Almost, I would say, there. That's pretty balanced. I like it a little bit more blue, so I'm gonna leave it just a tad bit. So I put it at a 14.5. 14.5. So now that's done. I'm gonna put this away. Rgb Parade. That's a great way to color balance, by the way, for any footage you have. You could tell if it's too warm or too cold. Now we go to the waveform. Waveform Luma. Now I want my blackest blacks to touch 0 and at least something to touch 100. So I'm just gonna drop the blacks. There you go. So the blacks touched very slightly at the bottom. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't want anything completely destroyed. No, even solid. Some 63.3. So you do have the footage. You know, you could be editing with me to see what it actually looks like. Sometimes H.265 is really difficult to color grade. It's very slow. So I apologize if that does. But if you want to learn how to make proxies, I will leave you a link in the description below that teaches you how to make proxies for your files. It's super, I think it's very helpful for my process when I didn't have a computer that was fast enough. So please use that tutorial to help you out. Second step is drop the shadows. I'm going to drop the shadows. I think that looks about realistic. 64. And now to add a little bit of contrast, I'm going to bump the whites until something touches the top. Boom. Now I have something touching all the way to zeros and something touching all the way. The highest highlights is 100 and the lowest blacks is 0. So I'm going to drop the shadows a little bit more to give it more of a balance. Boom. It's a little bit on the highlight side and on the shadows, so maybe I will drop the whites a little bit. And the shadows now is completely dropped, 86.4 at 63. I'm gonna bump the highlights and then contrast it just a tad, 5.4. Right now the picture looks as if it were perfectly real life, like, oh, I see. So let's do a before and after. Before, it's a little bit flat. After, you can tell by the waveform on the left how much it has changed. Before, after. I mean, this is after, before, after. Now, since we color corrected it, you know, we're going to, let's, on this side it's a little bit more blue, but that's towards the sun. Let's just focus on this side for now. Let's get a little bit of greens in here. So this was shot at the lowest f-stop, the lowest ISO, and defilter 16 and 1/50th of a second. So now we're gonna bump the saturation to 143. Why is it not lying to me? Yes, 143. Then we're gonna go to sharpening. I'm gonna add I'm gonna add 25.8 sharpening. Vibrance gets rid of the blues, so I'm gonna try to get rid of the blues a little bit by -6 maybe, and also bump the saturation on the creative tab to 1.3. I like it a lot. I don't touch this, I just do it in the I just don't mess with the shadow tint and highlight tint in the creative tab. So now we go to the creative section. We're gonna first mess with the red. We're gonna add maybe 1%. I can't even tell, but it's very subtle. Like you could barely even. It gives the earth more like earth feel to it. It's more natural looking. So I'm just gonna put that little tiny increase in the shadows at the bottom, and that's it. Then I'm gonna go to the greens, and then the greens and the highlights, I'm gonna add a little bit of a yellow, because that always looks good. Just a pinch at the yellows, and drop. No, I'm not gonna add in the shadows, because it's purple and I don't think it looks good. So I'm gonna increase the purples back to normal to flat. Now we're in the blues. I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow in the highlights as well as the shadows, just a tad bit. These are very slight adjustments. So slight that someone probably wouldn't notice. Here you go. Now the horizon level of this is like not straight. It's bent like at an oval because of the H.265 format. It gives it a little bit of a curvature. I'll show you that towards the end. Now let's do creative, okay? We're completely done with color correcting. Part 2, it's time to get a little creative. We're gonna go to the hue versus hue first. What I really like messing with is this section from the oranges all the way to the greens. So if you increase, let's go back to somewhere where there's more greens. If you put one right here and you increase it just a tad bit there, a little bit, and then the greens are more important. Bump the greens as high as you want, and then lower the blues back down. It's kind of just right above the line. Let's do a little before, after, before, after. Now we want maybe a bit more. No, I like it. No, don't touch it. Just a little bit. So that's fine. Now we go to the hue versus saturation to mess with the saturation a little bit. I really like messing with the blues a lot. We're going to lower the blues a little bit to give it more of a white feel because it's, you know, snowing. This was a long time ago. Just a tad bit. For the yellows and the greens, I'm going to bump up the greens. If you want to give it a Christmas color, like dark greens, just drop those saturation for the greens as much as you can. But I like it a little bit, you know, saturated. I will desaturate yellow just a tad bit. Now we're going to Luma. Luma is what makes it bright or dark. And we're going to go to the greens and the blues. So I put one on every color I like. Now we'll mess with the yellows first. As you can tell, you want the yellows a little bit brighter because it's the landscape and the snow. The greens you can make darker. No, I like it a little bit more bright. And then the blues, I'm going to drop so I could see that landscape in the back. I want to drop it a lot, actually. Ooh, look at that. If you drop it too much, you're going to increase noise and some weird crap is going to happen. The picture breaks. So I'm going to just drop it that much. That's perfect. Okay. I feel like it's done. I really like it. Something extra, let's just see what happens, is messing with the color wheels and match. So what I like to do is add blues to the shadows. Add blues to the shadows and then compensate that by adding yellows in the highlights. And you see how it got rid of the blues, but it's in the shadows. So boom, add a little bit more yellow tad bit in the highlights. Let's see what it looks like with, without. Just a little too much. Let's see if I like it or not. Double clicking anything, it resets it. A little funky. All right. We're going to increase the highlights even more on the color wheels and match section. But from what I can tell, this is perfect. Yeah, I mean, you're only going to use like 5 or 6 seconds of this. Any other segment, especially if the camera changes, you'll have to re-edit. I will give you the whole raw file though. And I'm just going to give you the LUT so you can compare our pictures. Hope you probably might do a better job. We'll see. I think it's perfect. Look at that waveform before and after. Look how much we stretched it, balanced it. I love it. I love it. We're almost done, guys. We're almost done. Now to creating a LUT. I'm going to show you how to create a LUT by going, I'm going to bring this right here so you guys can see. So your LUT is finished. You just right click up here and it says export look or export cube. I would export both and keep both of them. For cube, you can use it for LUTs. I think cube is a really good idea. So we'll just call this snow LUT. Snow LUT. Save. And then we'll also make a lookup. Export look. Snow look LUT. Both of these will be in the link below. All right, and let's see what it looks like. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to show you how to get rid of that distortion. So you just go to Effects, you look up DJI Inspire 1 4K, you just drop it, boom. You go to the Effects Controls and you see this little curve right here underneath lens distortion. You just mess with that until you get, no, you keep that at 4, it's vertical. No, not vertical, horizontal, horizontal. Where is it? There it is. Put that at 2. So -4 on the curvature and this at 2. And that will fix it. So before, after. Before, after. And to make it a little bit cinematic, we're going to click here, add an adjustment layer, press OK. I'm going to leave a card here that explains the proper way to add cinematic bars and as well as the improper way that we're doing right now. This is the improper way. It's quick, it's fast. The other way is fast too. Check out the tutorial. Effects, crop, search crop in the effects section, CROP. Then you just go back to effects control, top. 12 is the perfect bottom. 12. Finished. You can also control it. So for instance, we're gonna put, you'll see, just keyframe it, put it up and down. Hopefully you know how to do that. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something today. I think the biggest takeaway from today is color correct your image. If you exposed it properly and you captured something beautiful, it will look beautiful. Once you're finished correcting it, go to the creative and try to tweak little things. I think the best creators out there are capturing it in camera and adding the little fixes after. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Subscribe and peace.